From the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 10. Jesus sent out the 12 apostles after instructing them thus: "Do not go into pagan territory or enter a Samaritan town. Go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. As you go, make this proclamation: the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Cure the sick, raise the dead, cleanse lepers, drive out demons. Without cost you have received, without cost you are to give. What I say to you in the darkness, speak in the light. What you hear whispered, proclaim on the housetops. And do not be afraid of those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Rather be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in Gehenna. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a small coin? Yet not one of them falls to the ground without your Father's knowledge. Even all the hairs of your head are counted. So do not be afraid, you are worth more than many sparrows. Whoever finds his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. Whoever receives you receives me, and whoever receives me receives the one who sent me. Whoever receives a prophet because he is a prophet will receive a prophet's reward. And whoever receives a righteous man because he is righteous will receive a righteous man's reward. And whoever gives only a cup of cold water to one of these little ones to drink because he's a disciple, amen, I say to you, he will surely not lose his reward."
The mission is really what drives us, the mission outward. Now, there's something very important, sister, when we talk about the mission of the Jesuits. We cannot be men who would presume to go to the peripheries, to demonstrate what it is to live like Christ, what it is to serve, to be humble. I think every Jesuit enters religious life wanting to be part of something great. And when we can contribute to the wider goodness, the greater good, when we can contribute to that wider mission, we know that we're contributing to the building of the kingdom. So it becomes less about us as individuals and more about how we contribute to the greater good. And that's where I find my sense of peace, my sense of consolation, my sense of joy, not in doing what I want to do, but knowing that I'm doing something with my brothers for the greater good.
C'est la mission. C'est toujours la même mission. Tu sais, je suis missionnaire de l'Immaculée Conception depuis 1960. Donc, même jeune, je voulais l'aventure. Ma mère, elle disait, je ne sais pas d'où tu viens. Elle était très contente de rester assise sur la galerie chez elle, puis chez nous, à Chicopee Falls. Mais moi, je voulais voir plus grand. Donc, c'est ça. Chaque jour suffit sa peine, comme on pourrait dire, là. Mais malgré tout, c'est la mission that drives me on.
The hunger for spiritual growth is still in the heart of the people of Quebec, of Canada. It may not be formalized, but if one woman of prayer, a CND Sisters, makes a difference in your life, can that open their heart? It's one encounter. We are women of visitation. We are women of Pentecost. I think the Spirit moves in many different ways, and the willingness to walk with someone, to listen to them, to be present to them, touches one heart. They in turn pass that on. I'm not worried about the big institution building. Is how are we called to be people of hope, people who recognize that our world is in need of healing. That can only happen one-on-one. But we can also influence leaders, political leaders. We have to get out there. We have to stand strong for justice, for the rights of people.
Le principe le plus important, finalement, c'était de dire on ne laissera pas les événements décider pour nous. Nous allons nous-mêmes oser voir venir, prendre les décisions, pleurer les deuils, mais ensuite assumer nos décisions, partir et choisir d'être heureux ailleurs et autrement, et d'amener toutes les personnes dans ce... Et moi, je n'en reviens pas depuis quelques années. J'ai été témoin de ça à plusieurs reprises, comment cette attitude de faire face, accueillir nos émotions, mais ensuite faire face ensemble et de prendre les décisions avant que la vie les prenne pour nous et qu'on soit obligé de les subir. Maintenant, nous les assumons. Et ça change tout. Alors, ça nous permet d'avancer dans la sérénité.
Our life is one of prayer. And our world is in need of prayer, is in need of those who will give their lives to prayer. We have 7 young women in formation. One just made her solemn profession, so 8 young women who are staking their lives on it. They know that the world is on fire, and we know about the fires in the world, and we know about wars, and we're Queen of Peace. And we want and we need to create places, sacred spaces, places where people can come and encounter God.
We have to stop, like all religious orders, getting bogged down in this notion that we must do all things. We're not called to do all things. For the Jesuits, we are called to take our experience of Jesus Christ to those who most need it. That is a very small number. When you talk about the most, who needs it the most, it's not everyone. It's not the whole world. It's not every issue. It's a small, focused number. And so for me, I'm not going to ask my Jesuits to continue to try and do all things. We can't worry about the environment in all its multifaceted ways. We can't worry about justice issues. We can't worry about what's going on in every part of the world. In our own way, in our own abilities, with the influence we have, we will focus on what we can change, we will look to see what we can do, and we will respond to that.
Voir l'action de Dieu, je trouve que les pauvres nous évangélisent. Quand on est avec le vrai monde, qu'on écoute les cris du monde, est-ce qu'on peut se permettre de ne pas se mettre à leur portée, de pas... C'est la charité, au fond, le plus... Être chrétienne, être religieuse, c'est l'amour du prochain. Donc, qu'est-ce qu'on fait? C'est là le choix. Dans quoi on s'engage? Bien, on est dans un milieu ici qui est multiculturel, qui est multireligieux. Alors, c'est avec ces gens-là que l'on vit et c'est ce monde-là qu'on a choisi d'écouter puis d'accompagner. Dieu est dans ça. Quand il était sur Terre, qu'est-ce qu'il faisait? Il allait vers les pauvres, il allait vers les moins bien nantis. C'est ce qu'on a essayé de faire.
That's what sisters and religious are asked to do today. Look at the needs of our world. How would Jesus respond to that? And from that, we take our visitation spirituality. As Mary went to Elizabeth in her need, we are called to go to the world. That inspires me, and that makes me happy to get up in the morning and to live that reality.
L'action de Dieu est probablement beaucoup plus évidente maintenant que du temps où ma communauté, un temps que je n'ai pas vraiment connu, où ma communauté était puissante, omniprésente, avec tous les pouvoirs, toutes les actions, toute la gloire. On n'avait pas peut-être besoin tant que ça de Dieu, on se suffisait. Et maintenant, si on fait une différence, c'est parce qu'il est là. C'est ça que je sens. Et je sens que mes confrères vieillissants le sentent aussi, le ressentent aussi. Ils croient. C'est une conversion. Et à la CRC, on a beaucoup parlé de la vulnérabilité, puis c'est quelque chose dont on ne doit pas arrêter de parler parce que, comme disait Leonard Cohen, there's a crack in everything, et c'est à travers cette fissure que la lumière passe. Alors on est rempli de fissures. Je me sens rempli de fissures à ce moment-ci de ma vie, dans tout ce qu'on vit, dans ce que je vis. Et j'ai tout à fait l'impression que Dieu peut se faire présent enfin, comme il le souhaite.
I think that people are hungering and thirsting for something they don't even know it. Many, many people. And I hope that, or that they perceive God in beauty and nature, but they don't know what it is that they're looking for, what it is that is calling them, what is it that they're longing for, what their desires are. And these contemplatives have kind of identified what it is, what they're longing for, what our destiny is, what our end is. It's the heart of God, you know. And so, and I think that we're like just a quiet, silent light on the mountainside that's seen, and it causes people to question, causes people to think, what is it that brings my life meaning?
Il faut avoir les yeux ouverts pour être capable de percevoir l'action de Dieu dans qu'est-ce qui nous entoure. Parce que j'ai un cellulaire. J'ai jamais eu d'appel de Dieu sur mon cellulaire de Dieu qui me disait, Sylvia, je suis ici, là, dans ça. Je pense que ça fait partie du discernement qu'il y avait dans Éphésiens, de discerner, de voir les pas de Dieu, où est-ce qu'il se manifeste. Et comme j'ai mentionné avant, l'icône de le bon berger, c'est pas juste une image pour moi. C'est une façon d'être pour ça. Donc, Dieu se manifeste dans ma vie comme le bon berger, avec sa bienveillance, sa sollicitude, et moi, de mon côté, pour mettre ça en action, ça m'interpelle de moi aussi d'avoir la bienveillance.
I see our older sisters in infirmaries and other places continuing to be wonderful educators. They are being a presence to the people who come to take care of them. Many of them are immigrants, especially in the Montreal area, that are doing this wonderful presence. Some of them are teaching English or teaching French here in Montreal. Other places they'll teach English. How to give them the power for their lives.
Pour moi, le but de la vie religieuse, c'est que chacun, avec l'appel qu'il a reçu dans une même famille, se réalise pleinement dans la mission spécifique qui lui est confiée, avec l'aide de confrères, de consoeurs. Et c'est pour ça aussi que notre lien à Dieu, l'action de Dieu dans nos vies n'est pas uniforme. Et c'est le travail de toute une vie. Moi, je peux dire, au passage de la soixantaine, qui date déjà de quelques années, qu'il y a vraiment eu une transformation dans ma vie, où en ayant accepté à l'avance l'action de Dieu dans ma vie, j'ai fait l'expérience d'une immense liberté.
God wanted to do something new. And I would say the new generation that is in place, they are trustworthy. They are full of God. I really have confidence in them. It's going to be a very few number, not very numerous group, but they are quality, and I think that we can have confidence in the future, even if it's small, even if it's totally different, you know. what the face of the church or the face of religious life in Canada.
We are calling our process a transformation process. It has kind of a number of different facets to it, one of which is that recognition that life is always in transformation, in growth, and in change. It's the Paschal mystery. How do we become freed from some of the preoccupations that we have? Leadership is going to need to be raised up among other parts of our congregation. How do we live that reality? How do we prepare ourselves to say, I can let this go? Let go of properties, let go of a dominance that has been North America. We need to hear the voices of our sisters from Central America, from Africa, from Japan, our voices from the United States and Canada. How do we listen together and respond in a new way?
Ignatius of Loyola said, even if the Society of Jesus had just 12 men, we could make a positive impact globally on the church. Imagine that, 12 people. That's all Ignatius wanted. For me, as a Jesuit, as the provincial of the Jesuits of Canada, I don't need 10,000 men. I would be happy with 12 zealous men who would be willing to go to the peripheries, to go where they're most needed. Fortunately, I have way more than 12 men, and I believe that there's a tremendous amount of hope. There's a tremendous amount of consolation. I think there's great possibilities for me, especially when you look at the wider perspective.
It's trust and love, it's trusting that God is bigger than all that nothing's impossible for God, that our hidden life and our small things can have a great weight. I think it's the community. So when I personally go through dark or hard times, I have a community that's carrying me. We're like in this boat together, and when I'm flagging and don't have the strength to row, those others are rowing. And it's the same thing with the church. And this trusting that together we'll find our way. But is to have a real confidence in God's providential presence, His loving presence in the midst of all the crises in the world. I think, and it's to know that out of brokenness, even sin, God can recreate. He can make something new.
It's a challenge. Our congregational leadership team reflects that diversity. We have sisters from Cameroon, Japan, Honduras, English-speaking Canada, the United States. So we try to embody in our living and working together the challenges and the rewards of living interculturally, learning to understand the cultures of our other sisters, of the different people in the world. I think that's a witness to the diversity that we are, and the diversity to a world that really needs to learn how to communicate and live together. How do we bring our presence prayerfully to the needs of the world, and ask the Lord to be present to that? And how are we being called to be present to it? How is it changing the decisions we make? How is it influencing us? I can't solve the world's problems. We all try. I think leaders think they can do all of that. But it's how do we place that in the hands of God and ask for the wisdom, ask for the grace to be present to the needs of the day.
Tout ça n'est pas notre œuvre. Tout ça n'est pas notre œuvre, c'est l'œuvre de Dieu. On ne peut pas faire autrement actuellement que d'utiliser les ressources, les forces, les dons que nous avons dans la réalité qui se déroule sous nos yeux, qui va continuer de se dérouler. c'est l'histoire de quelqu'un d'autre qui est en train de s'écrire, et puis nous, on est là pour aider à inventer cette histoire-là.
I might say that it's important for me that religious congregations work together. When I was about 14, visiting Quebec City, I went to l'Hôtel Dieu, the Augustinian sisters. And I banged on the door of the museum, and a sister answered. Sister Olivette Poulin was her name. And I told her, I said, I'm interested in seeing the museum. And she was a bit taken aback. And she said, but why? And I said, I'm kind of thinking about maybe being a priest. And she looked at me square in the eyes and she said, if you're going to be a priest, you should be a Jesuit. And she brought me in and she showed me the relics of the Jesuit saints, explained to me the history of the Jesuits in Quebec. She gave me a tour of the grounds. And then when I was about to leave, she said, can I have your address? And she sent a letter. And from the time I was 15, 16, 17, she wrote me with fidelity until she passed away in the early 2000s. If it wasn't for her being bold enough to say, you should maybe think about the Jesuits, I probably wouldn't have thought about the Jesuits. Religious orders, we need to help each other out. There's not a plethora of vocations, that's true, but we do nobody any service if we don't recommend young men, young women to orders where they might find a good fit. So in terms of working together, that's just one example. There's many other examples of how we can work together, but at least personally, for me, that's very important.
There is a movement that's saying we need to collaborate, we need to work together. That is so hope-filled. When we feel we can't spend our time talking about, oh, we're diminishing, we're disappearing. The power of the Spirit, the power of God's presence is strengthened by those collaborations. And that's the only way it's going to happen.
Whenever I'm asked to speak about leadership, especially through the lens of CRC, I think about the Sisters of St. Martha and our elder sisters. They have seen so much change in their life, yet some of them embrace that change. And they witness to me what it means to be a leader every day. I say to them many times, we've never been here before, and part of your mission is to show us how to move into the future as elders. Secondly, I think about changes that are already underway. We are beginning to understand the meaning of collaboration and partnering. We do this together as religious, but we do this with the people with whom we minister. We do this together with different conferences that we all belong to, but also with those who minister for us and with us, those who already carry the charism out there in the world. The CRC team have listened to the webinars carefully, and they've pulled out opportunities for further conversation. Collaboration shows us the reality of CRC and its cultural and linguistic gifts and challenges. We need to embrace these realities and share in a synodal way, rather than moving forward in isolation or as silos. We need to be part of what's happening in the world. We're not against the world, but we're part of what the world needs in hope to move forward. Consecrated life, whether it's in its present or its future form, must be about mission. That mission enables us to be and meet people at the crossroads of life. I've heard leaders say, we need to celebrate the past, but not with a sense of longing to go back to it, but a sense of gratitude and a commitment of faith that God is working with us to shape the emerging future. We need to root ourselves in the present. What are the cries that we are hearing calling out to us to respond to today? That needs to be our motivation as leaders. Let us continue in the synodal style of leadership with one another, and let us make sure that we invite others to our common table. Let us be conscious of those on the peripheries and the margins. Let us share best practices and learnings and ask for the support we need. I believe that we are called to be even more courageous today. This is a new adventure. We need to own our statistics and demographics, but not let them paralyze us in dreaming. God often uses what is small to help us move. Think of the story of the mustard seed, or the woman who gave her last coin. She gave her all. These teach us what is important. Our smallness doesn't worry me. Giving up before our time worries me. We have a particular gift for this time as religious. We need to take care not to dismiss it because it's so small. Our gift is our age, our wisdom, our courage, to witness to a future we have not even seen. We must be aware of the greatest needs in the world around us, and our intercessory prayer needs to include these. Let us own that we are part of the story of colonialism. We are called to be leaders in our need for and our work in reconciliation. We need to assist our church to evolve and grow in inclusion. The CRC team will help facilitate our conversations on charism, synodality, collaboration, futuring, in order that we might stand together on new sacred ground. Finally, we are living in a time of transition, and this work is very intensive. It will stretch us, change us, open us to welcome new ways of being together, courageously, humbly, intentionally, and maybe even prophetically. Que le bon Dieu vous bénisse. Merci.
Rooted in the present and drawing on the wisdom of our experience, we dare to see the future that's already in the making, and we want to contribute to its growth. God dwells in our time. It's in the soil of our present life that we must find Him. It's in the soil of our present world that we must sow. The world and the times are changing. How can we combine the challenges of daily life with mission, transmission? We have a unique culture, history, and heritage. We need to make the most of that heritage, to tell our story not only in the past, but also in the present, to be proud of it and to celebrate it. Transition and transformation. The consecrated life is undergoing profound changes. Community life, organizational structures, administration, governance, leadership, mission, and commitment. Accept that God is making all things new and participate in these transformations. How can we live serenely through this period of transition and transformation despite discomfort, loss, and grief? And develop an attitude of openness to what the Spirit brings to life. Witness and relevance. We want to embody our convictions, to live them out, to bear witness to them in our daily lives as well as in our social engagement, and to express them in contexts that call for them, including within the church. It's not always easy to discern the sacred in human experience, and we must avoid isolating it. We must speak out and take the risk of expressing our convictions. Solidarity among members. At the heart of today's reality, we must come together, walk, search, discern, and act together, broadening our tent and never forgetting that there are realities other than our own. As we continue the momentum of the Synod, we need to be open, to listen deeply, to welcome, to trust, to support one another. Partnership with co-workers. To lighten the burden of our responsibilities, we need to rethink the way we work. We want to decentralize our ways of doing things, build alliances, network, join forces with existing organizations in our localities, share experiences. We need to learn to let go in order to live in serenity. We need to rely on collaboration and the integration of new partners. We are convinced that God dwells in our time.